Well, good evening, folks, and welcome to Sidetrack Sunday number 1 for February 2022. Glad to see everybody here tonight. I hope you enjoyed our opening act. I figured a little upbeat music might set the mood for this tax discussion. Over my left shoulder, as always, is the schedule. It's still pretty obsolete. I've just been swamped with work, so I haven't gotten to it. But I promise you all I will, especially Artie. I have not forgotten you, Artie. I will definitely get you up on here. So let's see who's in here tonight. I know we started out with Steve, 87th PSAP, Claude from the Cowboy Valley in Timberline Junction, and Brian from the Iron Horse route. Glad to see you guys here. And also, excuse me, Ethan Armitage was in pretty early. Let's see, we also have here, we got Daniel Banks, James Galton, Artie from American Model Railroading, Ray Boble, my partner in Sidetrack Sunday. Let's see, who else is there? Santa Fe Bob, great to see you. Let's see, who else do we have? Lynn McCurdy and the HDMMRC. Good to see you, Lynn. Appreciate you stopping in. Gus Hadley, the lunatic from Arno. Good to see you, Gus. Let's see, who else do we have here? I know we've got a bunch of Greg from Midsummer Railway N-Scale. I will get that name right one of these days, Greg. Anthony Dodge is here. Good to see you, Anthony. Let's see, who else do we have? I think I said hello to Santa Fe Bob. David from Low Country Railroads here. Good to see you, David. Rusty from Possum Bayou. Good to see you, Rusty. Robert Darby, appreciate you stopping in. Norman Rowe, how are you, Norman? Pappy from Trigoglin. Hope you're doing well, Pappy. Let's see here. Anthony Dodge, I think I said hello to you. Ron Mowens here. Good to see you, Ron. Scott from Hillbilly Railroads here. Mr. Dwight Curley. Good to see you, Dwight. Pennsylvania and Northwestern Railway. Great to see you. Stephen from Wigwag Workshop. Good to see you, Stephen. Let's see here. I mentioned Claude. Joe Rader, Black Rock Central Railroad. Good to see you, Joe. Sean McGee, appreciate you stopping in. Let's see. Roy, Container Man 68. Good to see you, Roy. The Train Freak, another Sidetrack Sunday freak. Good to see you, Jason. Heath was in here earlier. I imagine he's still around. And so was Rick Bailey. There's Dragon Lover 68. Good to see you, Connie. And Edward from Happy Valley Hobbies. Good to see you, Edward. There's Mr. Jimbo Trains. Good to see you, Mr. Jimbo. Appreciate you stopping in. I think I said hello to Brian from the Iron Horse Route. Appreciate you being here, Brian. Let's see. They make it like that. Great to see you. Appreciate you stopping in. Andy Karang. I hope I got your name right there, Andy. And there's Nisi J. Good to see you, Nisi. Tina A. Good to see you, Tina. Even if your brother doesn't say hello to you, I will. Let's see. There's Chris from Go Beer Go Home. Good to see you, Chris. JD, Grandpa Rails. Good to see you, John. There's Heath. Heath is round, but he needs to lose some weight. All right, Heath. Let's see. Dwayne's Fork and Spoon Railroad. Good to see you, Dwayne. Appreciate you stopping in. Let's see. All right, that's made it to the end of the list. I hope I got everybody. If I didn't, I apologize. I appreciate everybody being here. And those people who aren't chatting, I appreciate you being here too. There you go, Tina. We'll adopt you. All right. Let's see. Like I said, if I missed anybody, I apologize. And there's Melvin Fackler. Good to see you, Melvin. All right. So, there's Carolina Foothills Railroad. Great to see you. Okay. So I would like to start off by thanking Steve, 87th PSAP. Tonight's topic was actually his idea. So if you're not happy with what I have to say, and you're probably not going to be, if you decide you want to stone the messenger, just send some of them over to Steve's way. Al Moore, good to see you. Appreciate you being here. And Fred Wild as well. Good to see you, Fred. Okay. So, let's see here. Before I get started tonight, this is taxes are always a very politically charged topic. T4, good to see you. Appreciate you being here. And can also stir up some angry emotions with people. I've seen that a few times. So I really would like this to be. There we go, Jerry. Stone him. Oops, clicked the wrong one. So I really like to keep this as a practical discussion. What it is what it is, and ranting about it and complaining about it here isn't going to change anything. There's Amanda Wilson, Grit and Grace Health and Wellness. Good to see you, Amanda. If you haven't checked out Amanda's new channel, I encourage you to do so. She's interesting channel, and she's got a lot of really good things to say. John Nuffle, good to see you, John. Appreciate you stopping in. So like I was saying, I would like to keep this as a practical discussion. I'm not any happier with most of this than the rest of you are. So, and like I say, complaining about it here isn't going to change anything. Unfortunately, Congress doesn't consult with me when they decide to make these changes. If they would, our tax system would be a lot different. Okay, so what is this all about? Artie, as of yet, you don't. Once you're here, it will be due April 15th unless IRS goes and changes that, or it falls on a weekend. Here's Mike from Rail Artist. Yeah, I understand. I understand, Mike, but this is a topic that could affect a lot of us. So I thought it would be an important one to talk about. Okay. Also, I'm willing to take questions, mostly general questions. I really wouldn't be able to answer specific tax questions, but I'll be happy to answer general questions on this topic. But I would appreciate it if you would hold off on that for a little bit. I have prepared, I guess, a little presentation which might clear up some of this and answer some of your questions, ahead of time. So if you would hold your questions, and I'll be happy to get to them. All right, so what are we talking about tonight? We're talking about Form 1099-K. Now, this is not a new tax, and I'll get into that a little bit later. Let's see. Of course, Heath. It had to be. It had to be you, Heath. David Z to G, good to see you. Okay. So this is not a new tax. I will get into that a little bit further, a little bit later. But what it is there you go, Claude. Get those taxes in so Claude can get his train stuff. For April 15th is Claude's birthday. My least favorite day of the year, by the way, Claude. Anyhow, what this is it's a regulatory change. Form 1099-K is not a new form. It's been around for a while. It's part of a series of 1099 forms that are used to report certain payments made by certain types of payers. A common one that a lot of people have probably gotten is a 1099 INT, which you get from your bank for all those thousands of dollars they pay you for interest on your savings accounts. Another one you've probably seen is 1099 DIV for your dividends. there are a whole series of 1099 forms. This one is specifically for payment processors and network transactions, which is a rather cumbersome title that the IRS coined because they just couldn't think of a better term, I guess. Anyhow, it relates to payments made by YouTube. It's not just strictly limited to YouTube. It applies to Vimeo and anybody else similar to YouTube that you can monetize anyhow. Rumble, I believe you can. But it also applies to like let's see. It also applies to payers such as PayPal and Patreon, Teespring. I think they call themselves Spring now. Buy Me a Coffee. Anything in that general realm. That's why they don't have a very good name for this. Well, Jason, if you're only getting a nickel on your savings, you probably need a new bank. You should be getting at least a dime by now. So what the change is prior to this recent, prior to Cash App, Cash Me, as Jason just put up, any of them, any of these types of services, and any new ones that are going to be popping up. The change is prior to 2022, these types of payments of payers only had to issue the 1099-K if you had at least 200 transactions and at least $20,000 in income. This changed starting in 2022. There is no number of transactions. A single transaction would trigger a 1099-K. And the dollar limit has been reduced to $600. Now, I know that sounds like a huge change, and that they're unfairly targeting YouTube creators and the like. Actually, that's not true. Another 1099, a 1099 NEC, which is issued to independent contractors, carpenters, electricians, that sort of people that are hired by general contractors and other industries as well. But for many, many years, the limit on, or the threshold on issuing a 1099 NEC has been $600. So even though this dropped from $20,000 to $600, all it's really doing is bringing it in line with the rest of our tax laws, which actually just brought up something that Chris and a couple other guys here had mentioned in chat. Everything that, yes, Claude, I just saw that. It does include PayPal. Everything I'm talking about right now refers to U.S. taxes. These changes can't affect Canadians or our Australian friends or anybody in the UK. The IRS, of course, would love to reach across the border and pick your pockets, but they just can't. That said, I have no idea when Canada or these other countries will follow suit in one way or another. All governments right now are scrambling for funding, so they're going to be looking for ways of doing this. Okay, so what I have here is a few examples, which hopefully will make this a little bit clearer. And before I get to that, that if you were monetized, Dwight, that doesn't necessarily absolve you of having to file. Anyhow, let me get to this here. Okay, so I put up a few examples here. which hopefully will make this a little bit clearer. And for these examples, I've just chosen YouTube, Patreon, PayPal, and Teespring, or actually Spring, I think they call themselves now. It's not limited to these. It's like I said, it's anybody. It's Vimeo, it's Rumble, it's Cash Me. Everybody in this pretty broad group of companies. Excuse me. So my first example here should be pretty obvious, in that this channel is doing pretty well. They've received $1,000 from YouTube, $1,250 from Patreon, $600 and $650 from PayPal and Teespring, respectively. Each of these is over the $600 limit, or threshold, I should say. And yes, they are. That channel would be required to report all of that income, all $3,500. We'll go here to another example. And this channel is also making some money, but nowhere near as much. As you can see from Patreon, PayPal, and Teespring, they did not earn enough to hit that $600 threshold, so they wouldn't be getting a 1099-K. But they are still required to report that income. And just yeah, me too, Claude. And just to drive this home a little bit more, even though this channel has not hit that threshold for any of these four, they're still required to report all of that income. That's what I meant by this not being a new tax. Anybody who has been monetized, has been receiving money from super chats or sorry, I just read Rick's comment here. What was I saying? Just because that you haven't received a 1099-K in the past doesn't mean that you didn't have to report this income. This is a business activity, and as such, you are required to report the income and pay taxes on any net profit that you've made on it. That's nothing new. And no, Rick cannot claim Rita as a charitable contribution. So now I've also put together, Heath has a good point, and that's actually true, at least in most states. May not apply to all of them. It depends on the state sales tax. They do vary somewhat, but you are supposed to report your online purchases. Typically, that's done with your tax return at the end of the year. At least in Pennsylvania, it is. But I can tell you there's not an awful lot of people that do that. Not that I condone that, but it is what it is. All right. I also have a few yeah, but questions. In my line of work, this is yeah, but is probably the most common thing I hear from clients. Okay, so what I've done here is I put together a few questions, some of them I've heard already, some of what I'm just anticipating. So let's see here. Okay, I don't sell products or service, so I'm not in business. This is just a hobby. Hobby or not, it actually is a business activity, at least according to tax law. You don't have to have a formal business. You don't have to have created an LLC or gotten a fictitious name for your company. You don't have to have registered your business, and I'm not aware of any state that would require any sort of licensing for this kind of business. But it is a business activity. And in fact, calling it a hobby is really not what you want to do. Hobby businesses are still taxed, but there are some significant restrictions onto what you can write off with a hobby business. In short, you can bring a hobby business down to zero income if you have enough expenses, but you can never make it a loss, which you can do with a regular business. Amanda just asked what about a DBA. No, it's not required for this to be considered a business activity. In short, a business activity is really anything that you do to earn money. That's a little bit short answer and might not be completely accurate, but it is pretty close. And Robert Darby, a trade show or swap meet? Technically, yes. You are supposed to be reporting that, although I'm quite sure that most people don't. Okay, so another question here. I put all the money I received back into my channel. Okay, that could be true. That's probably true for most people. And if what you're putting the money into qualifies as legitimate business deductions, then you would be deducting that from the amount reported on the Form 1099-K, and you'd be paying taxes on any profit that was left. And if there was a loss, you would most likely be able to write that loss off. So in any event, whether you're putting the money back in or not, it's still a business activity. If it's a hobby business, like I said, expenses would be limited, and even though you spent more than you made, you could end up with taxable income because of that. Okay, I'm not making money, I'm losing money. Okay, that's great. Well, that's not great, but for tax rate purposes, it's great. Because as long as you're not considered a hobby business, then you would be able to write off those losses against other income and probably get a refund from it. All the money I receive goes towards my giveaways and contests. All right, this is one that's not going to be very popular. And because this is very much a gray area. According to tax law, business gifts are typically limited to a dollar value of $25 for gifts. Per gift, I'm sorry. A lot of the gifts that are given away, the contests, the prizes are valued at considerably more than $25. This BLI locomotive here that I won from Sparky at Christmas, thank you again, Sparky, is worth considerably more than $25. This is for promotional. Heath, ask me that again in a few minutes. I will get back to that. Sean McGee, can you say audit? Unfortunately, I can. Okay, the $25. So, and also, Tom, if you would hang on for ask me that question again in a few minutes, if you would. So since business gifts are limited in value to $25, this argument here that it goes towards your giveaways is very much a gray area. The business gift limitation is usually applied to promotional type gifts. A real estate agent sells a house, so they go out and they buy flowers for the new homeowner, something like that. Excuse me. Must be talking too much. This is really something that that you would need to discuss in detail with your tax preparer, because it's an arguable position, but it is by no means a guaranteed position. Okay, so now let's see next. I donate all the money to charity. That is an even bigger gray area. The problem is most YouTube creators, when they file these their tax returns, when they file this income, they would be filing it as a sole proprietor, meaning they haven't formed an LLC or a corporation or a partnership or anything like that. The problem is charitable contributions are not deductible directly by the business. They are deductible to a very limited extent by the individual. But what this means, bottom line, is you would end up with a taxable profit and then a deduction worth much less than that. So you would end up paying taxes, and you would end up paying Social Security taxes on it. If this is what you're doing, again, I strongly suggest you talk to a tax professional about this one. This is one that can definitely come back to bite you. Okay, now this is one that I'm definitely anticipating here, that all the super chats and Patreon payments I get and everything are gifts, so they're not taxable. And I've actually even seen people on YouTube promoting this. Okay, this is an argument I can assure you are absolutely never going to win. The fact that you are putting this amount of effort into producing videos and live streams and promoting your channel and asking people to support you and thanking them for doing so and putting their names up here, all of these things amount to soliciting income, and therefore this becomes taxable income, and they are not gifts. Gifts, of course, are not taxable. A legitimate gift is not taxable to the recipient. It may be taxable to the giver, which is something that few people understand. But really, this is not an argument that you are going to win as a YouTube creator. So let's see, what do I have next? Okay, and I've saved my favorite for last. And this doesn't apply just to 1099K. This applies to just about everything in taxes, and it is the single most common argument that you hear from a client, and that is, well, I'll just say, and fill in the blank. And that's great. You can say whatever you want. Assuming you're being audited and you're just saying this to the auditor, the first thing he is going to say is, great, prove it. Bottom line is, it really doesn't matter what you say. You have to be able to prove it. You have to have backup. You have to justify what you're saying. And that's really all the IRS agent is ever going to care about. And if I'm not mistaken, that was the last one. Okay. So that's pretty much it for the little presentation. Interesting, Andy. The recipient can be taxed on gifts in the UK. That's interesting. They are not taxed on gifts here, but there is a gift tax, but that is charged to the giver, which I know sounds like a very, very odd thing. Since I started a DBA, can I take the whole expense of that went away for some reason? Expense of my layout as claimed expenses? I would say no. The problem is it's in your home. If you had a shop, if you had a place of business and you set your layout up there as a display to entice your customers, I would say you probably could. But Jason, that's in your home and it's for your own enjoyment and your son and Amanda's enjoyment. So I'm sorry, it's really not going to it's not going to fly. Let's see here. Any other questions here? That is not necessarily true, Joe. If you're not monetized, you're not going to be getting a 1099K from YouTube. But if you're selling merch and you're selling at least $600 worth, or you have patrons on Patreon who are paying you and you get over $600 from them, you can certainly be affected. You don't have to be all of these. Any one of them hitting that $600 limit would get you the 1099K. Unfortunately, no, that's not really the case. Robert Darby, the office has to be separate. Yes and no. It can be on the same property, but it really needs to be a completely separate building. It doesn't have to be a separate address. I just wanted to clarify that. So my studio, which I rent under my LLC, I can write off any trains I buy that are in here. Yeah, I know the answer is no, right? You're right, Heath. The answer is no, because it still comes back from to the point that these are personal expenses. You would have to justify that this is strictly a business expense. Okay, is it $600 in profit or $600 in merch? It's $600 in income. So what the 1099Ks will be reporting to you is the gross amount of income that these services pay to you. Like I said, PayPal, eBay, any of them. I don't think I mentioned eBay before. So it will be $600 in gross. It's up to you to keep the records and write off any legitimate expenses against that. Tom, you're correct. Patreon, none of them have given out a 1099 in the past unless you made out over 20 grand. That is that's what this change is all about. IRS has reduced that limit to $600. It used to be actually 20 grand and 200 transactions. Now there's no transaction threshold and it's down to $600. So that's really what this is all about. Is a lot more people are going to be affected by this than have ever been affected in the past. Let's see. What do we got here? Okay, that, at least here in the U.S., Chris, is not quite as cut and dry as you're making it sound. You may be able to write off the material for a layout. The local train store here has a layout. First thing when you walk in, it's a small layout, but it's a layout. It's actually a pretty interesting layout. It's four-sided, and each side being a different season. And they have N scale, HO, S, and O scale trains on there. They can write off everything that's on that layout, all the materials to build it, all the scenery, the trains that they're running on it, absolutely everything. Because it's in their shop, it's in their store, and it's designed for the people to come in and ooh and ah all over the pretty trains and then buy some. Cousin Vinny, BNSF 6951, great to see you. Randall Ellison, it's good to see you. And unfortunately, Vinny, you did miss a good bit. Let's see. Lynn, yes, if you are paying tax on your monthly payment, if there's any fees or costs involved in that, yes, that would be absolutely a legitimate write-off. Okay, Tom, what is the deduction towards video production? To give you a really lousy answer, it's anything directly related to the video production. So yes, cameras, lighting, computers, microphones, etc. Everything really is taken on a facts and circumstances basis. So let's see, the microphone. This microphone is sitting in front of me. That would clearly be a direct write-off, since I would have absolutely no reason or use for a microphone other than producing videos and sitting here chatting with you folks. Lighting, again, I really would have no use for this lighting if I wasn't filming and taking photographs. The camera, that is most likely a legitimate write-off, simply because the problem comes in is, can you be using these things for personal use other than the business? A camera you could, but most of us have a camera on our phone now, so that would be perfectly legitimate, pretty much as far as I can see. The computer is an entirely different story. The computer is a special class of asset. It's called a listed asset, and there are serious restrictions on writing off computers. Now, to give you an example, if you have, I'm thinking of Heath's situation here. If you have a computer up in your home, and you also buy a computer downstairs for your layout, that computer down there for your layout, as far as I'm concerned, would absolutely be deductible. Still limited to the listed asset rules, but you have another computer that you're using upstairs to check your email and to pay your bills on. So you don't need that computer that's down in your studio. And that's what I'm talking about with facts and circumstances. And computers, like I said, are touchy simply because they are so ubiquitous in our lives. We pay bills, we shop, we half the time watch television. What we do so much on our computers right now. Okay. Nancy, first of all, no, there are no stupid questions where taxes are concerned, I assure you. So what if you are on SSI and do not pay taxes but use PayPal for purchases? This is not about what you pay with any purchases you make with PayPal. This is about income that PayPal would pay you. So if I were to send you a donation to your PayPal, that if it ends up being enough, over $600, then you would get a Form 1099-K. And the fact that you're on SSI is really no bearing. You would still have to pay taxes on this. Let's see. There was a question up here Jerry posted. I did see it run by. Okay, what is the difference between 1099 Miss and a 1099-K? Simply in the types of income that is paid to you. 1099-K is specifically for like YouTube and PayPal and Patreon and things like that. 1099 MISC is used to report rent to report. There's 6 or 7 different categories on the 1099 miss that is used to report it for. It's treated pretty much the same way. It's just it's a different form. And there used to be only a couple 1099 forms. There's now probably a dozen different ones, just because they've been expanded so far that one form would end up being a booklet if they didn't do it this way. Okay, how much money do I need to make as a business to be considered a business and not a hobby? There is no clear-cut guidelines on what becomes a hobby. There's no dollar amount. There are legitimate businesses that really just don't make all that much money, but they're still legitimate businesses. Again, it's a facts and circumstances type thing. It really comes down to how much time and effort you're putting into it. In my opinion, Heath, people like you, Tom, Vinny, there's no doubt that this would be a legitimate business. You're streaming every week, you're posting videos, you're promoting your channels, you're actively working on this. Somebody that posts a video once every few months or sporadically, somebody actually more like me, although probably wouldn't be getting this kind of money from YouTube, but I would stand a bigger risk of being considered a hobby business, simply because of the amount of time that I put into it. A lot, Heath. Let's see. I'm sure. What Social Security income is taxable? It states that some may be. That depends on your other income, Tom. If your only source of income is Social Security, then it's never taxable. It depends, like I said, it depends on how much other income you have. So, and that includes everything. If your income from interest and dividends, from sales of stock, income from your YouTube activities, all of that, that can trigger as much as 85% of your Social Security being taxable. It doesn't mean you're paying 85% of it in tax. It means that at most 85% of it would be added to your taxable income. That depends on your filing status, single, married filing joint, and how much other income you've made. PK&W Model Works. Bob, good to see you. Glad you could make it. Let's see. He already does. I'm sure that means he pays his accountant a lot. I have 2 YouTube vids, maybe 7 subscribers. Robert, at this point, I would say you would qualify as a hobby business. Qualifying is a bad word because that makes it sound like it's a good thing, and it really isn't. What if you get an engine at a show for $100, sell it on eBay for $80? How do I say it's a loss? What if I got it years ago for $30 and sold it for $80 when others are selling for $100? Let's see. If you bought an engine at a show for $100 and you sell it on eBay for $80, that's clearly a $20 loss. You would report the $80 as income, and the $100 would be reported as purchases for resale, which is the second or third line down below the income line on the Schedule C. Now, what if you got it years ago for $30 and sold it for $80 when others are selling for $100? It doesn't matter what others are selling it for. If you bought it for $30 and sold it for $80, you made a $50 profit. The fact that the $30 that you paid for was probably worth more than today's $80 is irrelevant, unfortunately. Let's see. How should I keep record of income and expenses? Do I need an official P&L, which is profit and loss statement for those who might not know, and accounts receivable? What is enough? Most likely, most of us don't really need any of that. Accounts receivable, most people, in fact, all individuals are required to file on a cash basis. Pappy, I did see that. I'll come back to you. They're required to file on a cash basis and on a calendar year. So for tax purposes, accounts receivable for us really doesn't matter. You do not need an official P&L. In fact, really about all you would need. I mean, I have people that keep records in a notebook. You could create a spreadsheet, a couple sheets, one showing income, one showing expenses. The income would be enough, recording date and who you got it from and how much. Expenses, similar, date, who you paid it to, how much, and what it was for. That would be that's enough. The key is, hello, Manny, great to see you. The key, and Manshed Railroad, good to see you, sir. The key, the most important thing is that they are contemporaneous records, which means you make them regularly as the year goes on. Come back here. Well, Tom, actually it does. It just doesn't directly do so. The standard itemized deductions, that comes in after your adjusted gross income. The income from the 1099 K or any other 1099s are all added to before your adjusted gross income. So it really does come off, but it just doesn't come off directly. Andy Ambrose, do you need a balance sheet in the USA? Corporations need a balance sheet, but individuals and some partnerships do. Individuals and sole proprietorships do not. Let's see here. Let's see. Let me find Pappy's question back here. But okay, travel expenses like gas, food, hotel to make videos. Is it a write-off? Travel expenses, yes. Food is a touchy subject. The argument that the IRS makes is that you're going to be eating whether you're eating at home or away. So feeding yourself, no. If you were entertaining somebody, and by entertaining somebody I mean entertaining a potential customer, then up to 50% of your food is deductible. Hotels, something like hotels. If I'm not mistaken, Pappy, your wife travels with you a lot. The problem with that is that would make at most 1/2 of your hotel bill deductible because your wife isn't earning the money you are. Okay, Happy Valley, how about research and development like designing a locomotive? If you're designing the locomotive for sale, yes, it's a qualified deduction. If you're designing it because you just want to have a unique locomotive, then unfortunately it's not. Now the problem with R&D costs is they must be, the proper term is amortized. It simply means that they have to be written off over a period of years. So you could spend $10,000 in R&D costs, but have to write that off over a period of, say, 10 years. So you would get roughly $1,000 a year as a write-off. This could leave you with taxable income, even though you spent more than that on your R&D. Let's see. Okay. You know, I hear that from a lot of people, Heath. All I can say is it's really in your best interest to keep receipts, to create a spreadsheet, something, not to just rely on these Amazon and eBay to keep track for you. Let's see here. What else? Let's see. This is. Well, that's definitely an interesting point, Claude. You by monetizing your channel and creating Teespring accounts and Patreon accounts and all of this, yeah, you're definitely opening yourself to more exposure. Let's see. Thank you, Amanda. I hope people are getting something out of this. Very, very good point, David. Yes, yeah. What about the cost of a sound decoder to go into a locomotive to demo for potential future installs from customers? My personal advice on that is, if you were my client, is I would take that as a deduction, as long as you're not trying to say this that you excuse me, you're not trying to write off decoders that you put into every one of your locomotives. There we go. This is, when in doubt, talk to a tax expert. Absolutely. Well, yes and no, but that's what the Form 1099-K is all about, Sean, is they're sending these forms not just to the creators and the people they're paying, but they're also sending them to the IRS, so that the IRS, IRS already knows. Okay, that brings up a good point, Claude. And there's a lot of people who are not making anywhere near enough to get the 1099-K. Like I said, it's possible that, like I said, you are technically supposed to be reporting this. I'm absolutely certain that there are quite a few creators out there who are not. I'm sure it's nobody in chat tonight. I know we're all doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing. But there are people out there that simply aren't. That's good, Dwayne. I wholeheartedly encourage people to take their stuff to a professional. A lot of people, they want to do it online because it's cheap and it's easy and they don't have to leave their house. But they don't get to sit down and hear about, they don't get to sit down and get the advice from a human being. Let's see. No, all other questions will be taxed 100%. Okay, let's see. Anything else? I don't think I missed anybody. If I did, all right. Heath is planning on writing off equipment for the time saver layout as he made it specifically for the channel. I would say that's a pretty good strategy, Heath. The time saver that is done online. I mean, it's controlled by your viewers, your supporters. So yes, I would say that is purely promotional, and I really don't. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I understand your point, Bob. You can certainly argue that. Unfortunately, from my experience, it is an argument you're going to lose because you are still deriving personal enjoyment out of it, and it's in your home. And what it's going to come down to is you would have to prove that you're using it strictly for business. And really, there's no way you're going to ever do that. Just that's just experience. That's just practical advice. I know it's not a popular thing. Let's see. What is a good rate for a CPA? Edward, that varies so much from area to area, and really what the CPA is specializing in. Many CPAs don't do taxes. I have done and do now have clients who are CPAs. They do the ones who I do taxes for. They spend all their time handling corporate work and not necessarily doing taxes, and they look at it as why spend their time learning to do something that they need to do once a year. So just because you're a CPA doesn't mean that you know anything about this. Bob, you're quite welcome. So honestly, Edward, I really couldn't give you a note, a quote on that. And good point, Heath. I am not a CPA. I am a tax accountant. What I do is strictly taxes. I do corporate taxes, but I don't get into the publicly traded businesses and stuff like that. Let's see again, Tier F. If you have no transactions, you do not have to file the 1099. You never file the 1099 T4. The 1099 would be sent to you. And if you had no transactions, then they're not sending you one. If you didn't earn at least $600, they're definitely not sending you one. Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate that. I'm with you. I'm not here to make money. That's why I'm not monetized. I just have fun doing what I'm doing. I have been accused of that, Heath. And yes, Container Man, I'll be happy to send you a bill, even though it was Heath that volunteered you. Let's see. I get to pay taxes for cities I don't live in, but because my place of employment has an office in that city, I have to pay taxes for that city. Okay, I'm not going to say that is absolutely wrong. That's wrong in a lot of places. Unfortunately, state tax laws vary so much, and I'm certainly not an expert in every state's tax laws. Thank you, Claude. I certainly appreciate that. And thank you for stopping in. Okay, what is a good rate for a tax professional? Again, I'm not trying to avoid the answer, Edward. That varies, and that varies. A good example, and this is a real life example. Years ago, when Tony, my associate, was had just started working for us, and he was, he understood our pricing structure and how to charge for a tax return. And he came into my office one day and handed me a tax return and asked me how much I would charge for that. And I told him, if memory serves, I told him it would have been about $250 for that particular tax return. The preparer who did this guy's tax return the year before charged him $1,500. and there was absolutely no way that was $1,500 worth of income tax. So again, I'm not trying to give you an answer. That varies so much between from area to area. I mean, H&R Block charges about double what I charge. So they're usually not a particularly good choice. So let's see. Well, you know, Sean, it could because your government is certainly bleeding revenue as much as ours is. Yes, you can break off certain deductions by breaking off a percentage of business and personal use. Not everything works that way, but yes, many times you can certainly do that, Andy. John, I can't tell you how many times I've seen that, and good luck getting it resolved because it can be a mess, and you really have to get it resolved because, unfortunately, the IRS is sitting there with the wrong information that you have. And if you don't get it corrected, IRS isn't going to know that they screwed it up. Okay, my new job is based in Atlanta, but I work in New York. Well, I pay Atlanta and New York City taxes. You will certainly pay New York City taxes, Heath, because you live there. If you're not working in Atlanta, you should not be paying Atlanta taxes. Now, there are certain types of taxes, not income taxes. Typically, they're called occupation taxes or something similar to that, occupational privilege taxes. You may be subject to that from Atlanta, but they are usually a flat rate and very small amount. Charge the other members of the STS group. Yeah. Well, I don't think they're going to be any quicker to pay than you would, Roy. Sometimes being poor is easier, Joe. It's actually illegal for us to charge a percentage on tax returns, since that would encourage the unscrupulous tax preparers to push up your refund. Mr. Jimbo, you're quite welcome. It was Steve, 87th Piece Up, who came up with the idea, and thank you, Steve. I think it was a good idea too. Let's see. Do I have a coupon code? Yeah, good luck, Rick. Try having a county clerk keeping your W-2 straight. No, thanks. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. They fixed it. You have both copies. Awesome, John. Save both copies just in case it comes back to bite you. I've seen that. I've seen it take that kind of time too, Ken, and that's one of the biggest things you have to get correct is the Social Security number. I'm not. I don't believe I've ever done an Arkansas taxes. I've done Ohio taxes. You should not have been paying any income taxes unless you were actually traveling in Ohio. Cat rules the house. Yeah, unfortunately, cats aren't deductible. Okay, that's one of the exceptions, Tom, is D.C. They do reach into Maryland, but that is that's one of the odder cases. Friends, but work and still have to pay. Yes, that unfortunately is a common thing. For example, Pennsylvania and New Jersey have what's known as a reciprocal agreement, and if I live in Pennsylvania, if I were to get a job in Jersey, my employer is technically supposed to withhold Pennsylvania taxes. They're not supposed to withhold New Jersey taxes. But you know, that works for the larger employers. The smaller people don't know that. And I've seen many times where I've had to file a New Jersey tax return for a client to get all of that money refunded, and file a Pennsylvania return where they owed a ton of money because the Pennsylvania taxes weren't withheld. So yeah, working across state like that can get can be a mess. Edward, I'm happy to have put the show on, and I really hope people got something out of it. I think with what I owe, it cost me a nickel for every laugh tonight. Good. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. People are saying goodbye to Vinny. Good night, Vinny. I appreciate you being here, my friend. You know what? That's a really good idea, and something that I did want to bring up. I've heard people say that, you know, I only have, you know, a half a dozen Patreons, or, you know, I'm not monetized yet, or I've only sold, you know, 2 mugs or whatever it is, and they're nowhere near the $600 limit. The problem is, this is for the year, so you could end up in, say, September, October, put out a video that really resonates with people. You get a bunch of subscribers and Patreons, and suddenly you're at the $600 limit. I mean, I really hope that happens to a bunch of people. But the problem is, you've been going along all year, not being prepared for this, not keeping track of anything, and now you're scrambling in the last couple months, trying to put it together, and I promise you, you're not going to get an accurate number. You're either going to be guessing, and you're probably going to be guessing either too high or too low. Tom, I've had clients that have been very proud of that. And I'm going to tell you what I tell all of them, and frankly, it's a very foolish thing to do. Keeping receipts and taxes and things like that from 20 years ago can never benefit you. All that it could ever possibly happen is it be used against you. You can go back and amend your tax returns for 3 years. IRS can go back for 6 without having evidence of fraud, in which case they can go back forever. But without evidence for fraud, they can't go back any further than 6. So going back any further keeping records back any further than 6 or 7 years can never really help you. Yeah, I understand habit, but it's kind of like smoking, Tom. I would break it. On a serious note, am I accepting new clients for the tax year? Generally speaking, Stephen, I only take clients in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, you know, the immediate surrounding states, because I am expected to be able to sit down and meet with clients. That's kind of a strange rule, since you can do it online yourself and nobody's meeting with you. But if I'm giving you advice, I'm expected to be able to sit down and meet with you. The other problem is, if you have a problem with your state tax return, you know, I don't know where you live, Stephen, but you probably don't want to be paying me to be traveling halfway across the country to resolve something. So really, yes, I will accept new clients, but I pretty much have to limit it to Pennsylvania and the surrounding areas. 7, no, that is not required. That's suggested, and it's just because that's as far back normally that IRS can go. I do advise you to keep it 7 years, but it is not. But there is no legal requirement for you to do so. You're in Ohio. Okay, Stephen, you're in Ohio. I've done Ohio taxes, but the people that I've done in Ohio were people that lived here and their companies moved them to Ohio. And so these are people that I've actually met and talked to. And that's really the thing is I am supposed to actually be able to meet you and know that you're a real person and not some identity theft or anything like that. And like I said, you probably don't want to pay me to have to travel around the country to handle some stupid state problem. Have you had to do IRS? Have you had to do audits with the IRS? Some say it's better to hire, so they have to do the audit. Thoughts? I have, I haven't handled an audit for a client in probably about 10 or 15 years, but over the years, yes, I've handled dozens of audits for clients. It's become a whole lot more complicated, actually. There was a time when I could go and handle the audit and the client didn't have to be there. That's changed. The IRS can and frequently does require to speak to the taxpayer. In that event, it still makes sense to have the accountant handle it because, I know the law. I know what IRS is allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. And there are quite a few things they're not allowed to do that people don't realize. And I've also seen agents try to do things that they're not allowed to do. So for that right there, it's worth it because I'll tell the agent, sorry, you can't do that. This audit's done. Artie Rick, John is a good guy. He's going to report you if you're doing anything illegal. Rick does read a Haver. I can honestly say I've never reported anybody. If I don't like what you're doing, I won't handle your taxes. Simply because I'm not going to jail for somebody else's tax schemes. Thank you, Dwayne. Appreciate you being here. Tired of seeing those people. Well, there are certainly cases where that happens. If that's one case, one situation where you absolutely need an experienced person. If you owe back taxes, you can get certain circumstances. It doesn't always work, but you can make an offer in compromise, and actually IRS will settle for less than you owe in certain cases. Now the taxpayer is never going to get that. You need somebody experienced with making what's called an offer in compromise, but they can actually save you a real ton of money. Are you sure about that, Edward? Let's see. Let's see. But John, Fultz Belly Model Railroad is a real fake tree. I just never filed. The IRS keeps looking for me, but I keep changing my name. You're laughing, Heath, but I've known people who have tried that strategy. There you go, Lynn. Heath, you're good. Lynn's got you covered, man. Okay, wow. That hour and 15 minutes went fast. I was kind of expecting this to be a shorter discussion. I guess I should have known better. If anybody has any last minute questions, please feel free to pop them up here. They refused your offer in compromise back in the 90s. There have been different times in history, Tom, when they were accepting more offers in compromise, and times when they were routinely rejecting them. It's entirely possible that you hit the low spot there, and or you were a victim of bad timing, unfortunately. Yeah, absolutely. I've seen the IRS attempt to audit dead people who had deceased 4 or 5 years prior to the audit. You're quite welcome, Jerry. Thank you. Thanks for your help tonight. I certainly appreciate it. David, thank you. David, Low Country Railroad. Rusty, thank you. All right. Well, thank you, Robert. I'm glad to hear that. I usually end up, in my line of work, I usually end up breaking people's hearts. Thank you, Randall. You take care, man. Well, yeah, that's true. You're absolutely right, Fred. They couldn't get Al for all the criminal activity, but they put him away for taxes. How would revenues be modeled on the layout? Probably hanging from a string, Bob. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate you being here. Thank you, Jason. Let's see. Yep, that's all they got him for. You're welcome, Pappy. Thank you. You know what? That's a good piece of advice, and I'm not saying that just because it's an accountant. One last comment I will make before I get out of here. People are always trying to save money on taxes. I've seen this for a very, very long time. This is over 5 decades I've been doing this, and I've seen quite a bit. The fact is, though, the amount of money that you earn, your taxable income, especially from something like this, will positively, in fact, affect the Social Security you receive. Now, there's a lot of us in this hobby, certainly not all of us, but there's a lot of us in this hobby who are nearing retirement age. Your Social Security payment is calculated on how much you've earned and what you've earned towards the end of your career. In fact, it's the highest 4 quarters out of the last 5 that determines your Social Security. So if you're getting close to Social Security age, you might want to consider reporting more income, because it will help you in the long run. It will help increase the amount of Social Security that you get each month, and it'll increase that base, so you'll end up getting the increased amount for the rest of your life. Okay, Artie's been audited 6 times. I don't know anybody who's been audited 6 times, Artie. So let's see. I wish I was nearing retirement, Heath. I share your sentiments there. All right, folks. Once again, thank you so much for being here. I hope that you found this discussion useful. I hope I was able to clear up some questions for you. And interesting, Fred, the original tax return in 1913 had 6 lines. Now there's, 30 or 40 times the number of people, and it's many, many pages long, or it can be many, many pages long. All right, folks. Again, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. I hope this was helpful or informative, or at least entertaining. Don't forget, next week will be Heath, next Sunday at 8 p.m. I don't know what he's going to talk about, but I'm sure he'll be back closer to trains than I was tonight. So thank you. Good night, everyone, and I really appreciate it. We'll see you during the streams sometime this week, I'm sure. Take care, all.